Hi, everybody. Welcome back to A Billion Realities. Sorry for this short break. Next on the show, we have an incredible, empowered woman, author Tisa Batey Walker, about her intense journey, her life as a Christian woman, and the inspiration behind her new tell-all book, This Is How Saved People Sin. Welcome to the show, Tisa.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. It's great to be connected, and it's very interesting because my last guest was introduced by Gerald Clay as you were. So it's my pleasure. Any friend of GB's is a friend of mine. So tell us a little about yourself.
Well, not a whole lot to tell. I am, a mother of two, divorced, married for 14 years, divorced now for 12 years, reside in Atlanta, Georgia, but originally from Tennessee. Grew up in a very small town in East Tennessee called Harriman, Tennessee. I think that I felt that I've always been somewhat an overachiever. I was an athlete and all through school and was a college athlete, and so very competitive at heart. Graduated college, went to Austin Peay State University in Tennessee, majored in journalism, mass communication, and was a news anchor after graduating college, and decided to take my chances, switch careers, go into business management, and move to Atlanta, the land of opportunity.
Right.
Met my husband, then husband, and we were married for 14 years. That union produced two beautiful girls. So I have two beautiful daughters. And, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. And I'm here to say that even though I'm a Christian and even though I love the Lord, I still make bad decisions and I still sin. And he loves me anyway and forgives me for them all.
Full statement to make. So at what point did you end up moving from Tennessee to Atlanta?
I moved shortly after I graduated college. So what happened was I graduated college in December of 1992, moved to Atlanta, and stayed in Atlanta for a year and a half or so, close to 2 years, and landed a job back in Tennessee as a news anchor, which was my field of study. So I moved back to Tennessee and took the news anchoring job for a few years, was unhappy in Tennessee, was unhappy with my pay and with the lack of mobility that the station offered, and decided to go ahead and try my hand at moving back to Atlanta. So that's what I did. And when I moved back to Atlanta, I actually made a decision to switch gears and go into business management. And I've been in business management ever since, yeah.
Okay. So you found your niche.
One of them. One of them. I don't know that that's my only niche, but certainly I found one of them. I'm good at it.
Excellent. Great. Wonderful. So what would you say is the drive?
I'm sorry, say that again. We have a bad connection.
Do we have you back?
I am here. The connection is really bad. I can hear.
Sorry, guys, we're just having some technical difficulties. Hopefully we get Tisa back on the line in a minute. Hi, Tisa. Okay, we're clear
Hey.
now. Okay, that's
Okay,
better.
good.
That's never happened before on that level, but we're clear now, so that's good. Okay,
Good.
so I was beginning to ask a question, so I'm not sure how much of it was hearable, but what was the driving force behind you deciding to write your book?
Well, quite frankly, I was in deep prayer. There was a period of time in my life, about 4 years ago, that I was in deep prayer, and my prayer to God was that He reveal my purpose. I strongly believe that we are all here for a reason, and the reason extends further than just serving ourselves. And so I knew that I had a purpose. I just didn't know what it was I was supposed to be doing. I didn't feel completely fulfilled in my day-to-day job. I didn't feel that I was really helping anyone or really serving anyone other than the company that I worked for. And so I wanted to know before I left this earth what it was I was created to do. Why did you create me? What is my calling? What is my purpose? And so I prayed that prayer over and over and over, probably for a year. And one day I was in the gym and I was working out, and I was told I had a conversation with God, and the conversation that I had with God was so strong. It was as if He was standing in front of me talking to me face to face. And I have never experienced hearing from God like I did that one time. And I've never heard Him so strongly since. I've heard Him, but I've never heard Him speak to me the way He did to stay in the gym. And
Wow.
He told me that He had an assignment for me to do, and that He needed me to be intimate with Him. He needed me to give Him 1 year of my life, be intimate with no one but Him for a year. And I heard Him very clearly, but I started negotiating with Him. And I told Him that I could probably do 6 months, but I didn't know if I could do a year.
Okay.
And
wow.
how many of you guys know that, God does not negotiate? It is His way or the highway. So,
there you go.
Eventually I got on board, and he kept revealing to me and telling me to write my story. And I was very hesitant because there are things that I reveal in my book that I'm just, me in the natural, I'm just not comfortable with other people knowing about me. I've always been a very private person. And so for him to tell me to reveal things that were very uncomfortable, it had to be him. And there were things that I would write because I would pray before I would write and ask him to lead me and guide me and direct me. If he wanted me to do this, he was going to have to be all in it. He was going to have to take control. And there were times when I would try to take things back out of the book because I felt that they were too personal. And he would wake me up in the middle of the night and say, write it, put it back in. So this was not a labor of love initially. This was an assignment that I had to fulfill. And I couldn't rest until I fulfilled it.
That is so incredible, especially because you asked for it, right?
Yeah,
you prayed
I did.
And, even though you asked for it, it seems like too big of a, I don't want to call it a burden because, but I'm sure it was difficult. You even tried to negotiate.
Well, that's the way I saw it. I viewed it as a burden initially. It did burden me because it wasn't something I wanted to do. If you want me to write, that's fine, but I would ask him over and over, why do I have to write about me? Why do I have to share my personal details? I'm not comfortable with this. And I would hear in my spirit, this book is not for you. This book is for someone else who needs to hear your story. So I just got on board, and I decided, you know what, I am going to be obedient. There were times when I walked away from writing for months, and I got no rest, no sleep, and I would go back. And I finally just got on board and said, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do it, and God, I'm gonna trust you. Let the chips fall where they may, but I'm just gonna trust you. And that's what I did.
That is so inspiring, and I bet it was difficult. I can understand exactly what it's like to write about your own life, especially the trials, the tribulations. There's a lot of dark times, and it's difficult to expose that. But what would you say was the reason behind you wanting to keep these secrets?
Well, no one likes to expose their sins. I think that it's human nature for us to cover our sins. Most people don't operate in total and complete transparency. Let's just be honest.
Absolutely.
Most people are not as forthcoming about their indiscretions as they are about others. So,
good point.
I talk about some really deep issues in my book, and some things that I've done that I've been very ashamed of, and shame and embarrassment. All those things are the reasons why people choose not to share their indiscretions, and also pride. All those reasons play a part in why I didn't want anyone to know what I'd done. People held me in. There were some people, I will say, that held me in a very high regard or esteem, and I did not want to dampen their views or their opinions of me. But then I had to ask myself, who was I trying to please? Because God already knew everything that I'd done anyway. So I had to stop being a people pleaser at that point and focus on pleasing God.
And you knew from the message that you were receiving from God that this was a higher purpose and that it was meant to help somebody else. So that says a lot about, and it says a lot about you, that you were willing to put your service to others and who you may be able to help and who you were convinced that you were going to help, because that was the higher message that you received from God.
Right.
So you put all of that before you, and that is the most powerful message to me, because that speaks of true purpose, not just a self-fulfilling purpose, like true purpose. How am I affecting the world? So
absolutely.
This is a very incredible journey that you have. So what kind of feedback did you get after you put this information out?
I cannot tell you how inundated I was with text messages, with posts on my Facebook timeline, and with direct messages. I cannot tell you how many of those I received on a daily basis, telling me how much they were blessed by my book and how they thought they were reading about themselves. And how freed and liberated they felt from knowing that they weren't the only ones who had experienced some of the things that I shared in my book. And at that particular time, when I got the first message, I knew you are who I wrote this book for. If no one else gets it, if I can't help anyone else, you are the person I wrote this book for. But the floodgates just opened after that. And it was person after person after person after person saying the very same thing. They were so proud of the fact that I had been transparent enough to share some really incriminating or really horrible decisions that I've made that nobody would have ever known had I not. I spent my life trying to hide and cover up the things that I had done, only for God to have me expose them myself to the world. And that had to be God, because I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Absolutely. Like you said before, shame and guilt, those are the hardest things to reveal, especially the
Yes.
circumstances that created those feelings within us. It's something that is very personal to us, and it's something that we deal with on a very internal level. It's not it's
Correct.
one of it's those type of emotions that we don't really seek to others to help us through. So I can just imagine how difficult that must have been. So
Absolutely.
how did you feel, even outside of all the messages that you got? How did it feel to finally be done writing this book and have it all out there, even before you got the feedback that you got?
I felt relieved, but at the same time, although I was relieved and so glad that it was over, I was also a little fearful. I was trusting God through the process, and I relied heavily on Him to just make sure that everything went well, because I figured, you know what, you told me to write this, so certainly there should be no backlash. No one should have a problem with it, because you told me what to write. So I'm depending on you. But I was still very nervous. I was very nervous because I'm very visible in my church. I'm a vocalist, and I sing, and I attend a church where there's 25,000 members. So my face is very visible. Yes, my face is visible, and I sing, and I lead a lot of the songs, and I was really worried about how people were going to look at me when I was ministering. After that, after you've read my book, after you've peeled back all the layers of the onion, and you see the person that I was, or the things that I did, not necessarily the person that I was, but you see the things that I did. I had a little bit of anxiety over it, but I just trusted God through the process.
It shows you how powerful faith is, and your faith is what made you continue writing it, even the times that you had that, you're probably writing a chapter and saying to yourself, like, oh, this hurts to relive.
Correct. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
So,
it was very painful.
I bet. Faith is a powerful thing, and when you rely on that, it can be comforting. But I can imagine how much anxiety you still had releasing this and continuing to write it. So how has sharing your story transformed your life at this point?
It has just made me walk in more transparency. I always felt the need to cover things up or to keep things completely private, or, I would never ask for help. And I still, struggle with that from time to time, because I am, a private person by nature. But it has made me more aware of the need for total and complete transparency. And it has made me much more comfortable saying and admitting that I don't have it all together, that I don't have all the answers. I was never really comfortable saying that before. Even if I didn't know, you were going to think I knew what I was talking about, because I just wasn't comfortable being vulnerable and in any position that I felt deemed me as being weak. But now I know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say I need help. It's okay to say I'm hurting. And it's okay to offer or to let people in, people who can help you and people that you can help. It's okay. And
That's
in that way, it has really impacted my life.
That's incredible. I feel like it must have been a really life-altering experience to go from one extreme to the other. As you just said, you were so private, didn't want to ask for help. Do you feel that releasing this information and being transparent has ended up giving you strength, even though before you thought that would be a weakness?
That's a very good question. there is strength in transparency. As a matter of fact, much more strength in transparency than there is in being proud. And the reason I say that is because when you are operating in transparency, you are opening yourselves up for whatever ridicule the world might have. When you're proud and when you're keeping it to yourself, you're not letting anyone in. So the ridicule is not the same. But when you're letting people know what you're doing and you're saying, hey, I've done this or I've done that, or hey, I make these mistakes, I do this, or I don't do this right, or I don't know how to do this, you open yourself up for much more ridicule, obviously. But it's freeing and it feels so liberating to say, I'm an open book. What you see is what you get. Because you don't have to keep up pretenses. It's very hard to keep up pretenses sometimes. Yeah, that takes a lot of energy.
There's a lot of anxiety in that itself.
Of course. Absolutely. So, to answer your question, I guess I do feel that I've been, strengthened by my ability to become more transparent than I was before. Very good question.
Thank you. I'm so happy to hear you say that. I talk to a lot of different people, about similar topics, not exactly the same, but similar. And when they came out with their stories and their truth, it was exactly what you said. It was empowering, it was liberating, and it was like, I don't have to be perfect because we are human and we're not supposed to be perfect. And the whole point of our spiritual evolution is to go through certain dynamics, make certain mistakes, to build our character and to be able to come out stronger. And then when you can actually share that with others, to empower them as well. And to, when you can be completely yourself, it allows other people to be completely themselves. It gives them the power to do the same. So I think that's
absolutely
so amazing. So looking back on all of the things that you went through, even the mistakes, everything you wrote about in your book, and I haven't read it yet, so I'm not going to reveal anything, obviously, because I don't know exactly what they are. But whatever they are, do you have any regrets? Is there anything you would go back and say, I would change that, or do you feel that it was all for a reason?
I regret absolutely nothing, and I know that it was for a reason, and some of the things that I revealed, I still may not understand why I had to do it, but it had to be done. I'm confident that it was for someone, and maybe it was for me. Even if it was for me, that's good enough too, because, I grew up in a very loving family, but it was dysfunctional, as many families are.
Definitely.
My dysfunction might not look like your dysfunction, but dysfunction is dysfunction all the same. So I don't have any regrets with regards to what I wrote. I didn't write anything to hurt or offend anyone else. It was not, certainly was not my intention. I wrote what I felt led by the Holy Spirit to write, and at the end of the day, I'm confident that God will get the glory because it belongs to Him anyway, and people will be liberated, delivered, set free because of some of the things that I reveal in my book. Sometimes, let's face it, sometimes people just need to know they're not alone. They're not alone in what they're doing. That they're not the only ones. And I think that when you let people into your world and they see that you're actually human, that you actually bleed just like they do, it's comforting to them. So if I've done nothing else, I've offered that.
That's a beautiful thing, because being alone in the world is the reason for a lot of different things, such as addiction,
Yeah.
a lot of people who are suicidal, believe it or not, in the line of work I do, I've met a lot of people who they feel alone in the world. And when they know
Absolutely.
that they're not, so I see
Absolutely.
all of the value in your purpose and everything that you've done. And I find it just overwhelmingly incredible that you're helping other people on such a majorly spiritual and deep level to not feel alone in this world, because those are the reasons why some people end up just losing it, and because of the shame, because of the guilt, because of their mistakes, they just can't face themselves. Right. Yeah, and they have a hard time going.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, they have a hard time moving on, and then they end up with addictions to numb the pain. So I think that's a really, really powerful book that you put out. Wow.
Thank you. I encourage you to, whenever you have the opportunity, just to pick up a copy and read it. I think that you'll really be blessed. What I heard people say, probably more so than anything, was, Tisa, I don't even like to read. I don't enjoy reading. And I read your book in one day because I couldn't put it down. So it is quite the page turner from what I hear.
Great.
And it's a very, very easy read. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I hope that you'll enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm looking forward to promoting it as well, because, as you know, a lot of my show is based around spirituality and psychology, and and providing comfort to others through my contacts, through people that I meet, such as yourself, who have a powerful book or a message to send out. And, I feel like there's just like most of my audience will also enjoy that and be inspired by it. So it's amazing. So
that would be great. I appreciate that.
Right. So this was your first book as far as writing goes, a writing project, correct?
This was my first, outside of writing news footage. When I was an anchor, a news anchor, I did have to write my news footage and actually broadcast my own news footage. But this was the first project that I've done. This was the first, piece of work that I've ever independently written. And I was very nervous about that. But since then, I have, done other writing projects. I've just become a freelance writer and just published actually my first piece today.
Wow.
So, there have been very good things. Thank you. There have been very good things that have come out of this literary piece of work, and I'm really optimistic and looking for what God has for me in the future. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that's so excellent. I'm so happy to hear that. So do you think that this has started a new, let's say, trend in your life about putting out more books, more?
Possibly. I've been asked by several people if there's going to be a volume 2. It's not in the making right now, but that's not to say that it won't be written. My focus is elsewhere right now. And as I stated, I wrote this book because it was an assignment, not because it was a labor of love, just something I wanted to do. It was something that I had to do. And so it was a very daunting task up until the point that I made the decision to get fully on board and just be obedient and do what I needed to do. So it was a daunting task and very difficult. So I'm not writing. I haven't started writing another book as of yet, but who knows what the future holds. You just never know.
Okay. That's true. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious. So I know you got a lot of feedback in your inbox and just people reaching out to you personally. How has your book and you coming out with this information affected the dynamic within your church?
If it has affected people's views or opinions of me, they certainly haven't let me know it. Most of the people, even some of the people that I thought would you know, find some of the things that I wrote offensive are the very same people approaching me, telling me how proud they are that I shared, that I was open and honest enough to share this, that you know, that it has been inspirational to them. And, you know, there are a couple of people at the church who are asking me for my help in writing their book, their memoirs.
Wow.
So it has had nothing but a positive effect. It hasn't dampened any of the relationships that I've established. And there's nothing, in my opinion, that's come from it other than positivity.
That is so amazing to hear. And it's
Yeah.
like confirmation. It feels to me anyway, like it's your confirmation that God, you know, truly spoke to you and you felt that accurately.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
the results are the proof.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It could have gone so many different ways.
Right.
But it's had a very, very, and it still continues to have a very, very positive impact on people who read it.
That is so incredible. So what other projects are you working on at the moment? So you sing in the church and you have your day job, right? And you finished this book. So what's your next move?
Well, currently I'm looking to complete my master's. So I am enrolling back in school, supposed to start in May. And as I stated, I am a new freelance writer. And those things are very, very time-consuming, extremely time-consuming. And so right now I'm just praying that God gives me the strength that I need and the focus to see everything through to fruition. So, yeah, we have a few things in the making, but the thing that I'm most excited about is the freelance writing. Yeah, that's so very exciting for me.
What type of topics do you cover? Are they all different?
They're all different. It just depends. I don't want to put myself in a box and be known to only write one different style about one specific topic. I want to be open so that I can just flow freely. I put my articles out there, and, you know, I don't want to limit myself to – I don't want to become known as just, you know, a person who writes somber articles. I don't want to be known as a person who only writes upbeat articles. I want to be able to be versatile and flexible, and however I'm feeling, that's what I'll write. And that's how my writing will come across. So I don't want to limit myself. I don't have a specific category. You know, I've done copyright today. You know, I mean, just blogs, whatever is needed. You know, that's going to be my focus.
That's amazing. So I'm so curious about this as well. So you wrote the book. So you came out with the information, the book. You got a lot of great feedback. You know, I'm sure that was a very healing process in the end, even though it was very difficult moving through it. Would you say that it helped you to heal a lot of the, you know, to address and heal a lot of the things that you felt guilty or shameful about after writing it as well?
I think so. There are still times that I'll relive something that happened, and I'll feel feelings of sadness or, you know, regret for the way this was handled or that was handled. But I think that in writing the book, I certainly was ministering to myself when, you know, I say in the book that, you know, none of us are without sin. Our sins may look different from the next person, but we still all sin. And it's very arrogant and self-righteous for us to feel that we are above that.
That's true.
There is no man who walks the face of this earth that's perfect. And so in that, we all do have to acknowledge the fact that we do fall short from time to time. But it was healing for me to actually read my own words as I was writing and really ingest it and really know that regardless of our sins, be they, God is not the one who stands back and says, well, your sin is small, but your sin is big.
Right.
You're a homosexual, so your sin is huge. You're going to hell. But you've stolen or you told a white lie. Your sin is small, so you can still make it into heaven. God doesn't do that. Sin is sin to him. It's man. Mm-hmm. It's us. It's us who judges each other for our sins. It's us who tries to categorize sins and make this sin big and this sin small. God doesn't do that. Sin is sin. And so what my book says is it's not okay to judge people because their sins look different from your sins. We all sin.
That's right.
But God, when we ask for forgiveness, he is just enough to forgive us for them all, and he still loves us. Just no different than I feel about my children. Sometimes they mess up. They make the wrong decisions, and sometimes I may have to scold them. But it doesn't mean that I ever stop loving them. And that's truly the way I have come to learn God feels about us.
That's beautiful. And
yeah.
I grew up with that same message. I grew up as a Methodist, going to church with my grandparents, and they taught us a lot about religion and, just going to church and Bible study.
Right.
And really, the Bible's actually against you judging somebody else's sins anyway, because it's not our place.
Exactly. But we do it so often. We do it because, I guess we do it because we feel that God isn't in control and maybe that he needs our help. And he doesn't need our help. He's quite capable of doing that all by himself. So, we have to stop doing that. And I admonish people to stop doing that. That's not a good thing. And, while you're sitting back judging other people for their sins, you're sinning by doing what you're doing. You're judging. You're standing in judgment. He doesn't need our help. He's good with handling that by himself.
That's very true. That's not our job. That's not our place.
Absolutely.
It's not our job. It's a great message to send out, and it's a really good reminder, especially under the current heavy circumstances, just to support each other and not be so judgmental.
Right. Just love each other.
And everybody goes through things in our childhoods, in our relationships, in our lives, and they affect how we react to life and relationships and, just in life in general. So when you have that deeper understanding, it increases your empathy, it increases your compassion for the way that you deal with others. But, when we hold on to the shame and the guilt, it's easier for us to judge others as well, I think, because we know what it feels like, and we're judging ourselves until we can do what you did and say, hey, you know what? I made mistakes. I'm not perfect. And then it's so much easier to not judge other people when you stop judging yourself so harshly.
Absolutely. And sometimes, I'll catch myself, because it's human nature. I might hear something about this person or that person, and I might start to form an opinion about it. And I'll have to catch myself and be like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. That's not my place. It's not, I just have to pray for them. Or I just have to dismiss myself from the conversation because I don't want to allow myself to get caught up in doing that and passing judgment on other people. It's just, I feel like, none of us have the right or room really to do that. If we just focused on just trying to be the best person that we can be, it eliminates all the extra time that we have in the day to criticize others for what they're doing. Just focus on getting yourself right, and that will occupy so much of your empty space throughout the day.
Absolutely. I think there's a quote by, it might be Mother Teresa, but I can't be sure, but it says, if you're judging others, you have no time to love them. So this is this perfect quote. Right.
Absolutely. Very fitting. Very fitting.
Yeah,
Very fitting.
it just came to my mind as we were discussing this, and it's such a great message to send out to
It is.
just be more compassionate. You don't know what people have gone through in their lives, and
Absolutely.
why they're doing what they're doing, or what they need to go through in order to, sometimes when we go through the hardest, shakeups in our lives or the darkest times, it triggers an awakening within us, and it triggers our healing, our need for healing, and our need to face ourselves and say, okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't want to live like this anymore, or I don't want to be like
Absolutely.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
So
Absolutely.
that's very important.
Life. Just if you live long enough, experiences will teach you what you need to know. So. Just try to I think that each day, if I can just try to be a little better than I was the day before, then I'm on the right path. And I just try to surround myself with positivity, with people who are positive, with people who think the way I think, and people who are spreading more love and less judgment, less negativity. It's very important that I keep my circle is small, but my circle is full of love. And, if you don't have it in your life, get it. That's the best advice I can give anyone. If you don't have that in your life, if your circle is not really pouring into you, and you don't have positive people around you really pouring into you and that you're pouring into, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. Life is short. It's meant to be lived, and it's meant to be lived to the fullest. Not to say that we won't ever get down, or not to say that we won't ever have bad days, because we're human, and, sometimes it just happens. But, don't stay there. Don't stay there.
That's right. Don't
recognize it. Yeah, don't stay there. Don't stay stuck. Get up, dust yourself off, do what you have to do to start feeling better, and just put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And you made a really great point about being around people who lift you up, because energy itself is very powerful. Our thoughts, the energy we surround ourselves with. So when you raise your vibration, you're less likely to be in those lower vibrational energies where you're judgmental or critical, even of yourself.
Right. Absolutely. I just wanted to spread some love and just encourage people not to beat themselves up for making mistakes or making poor decisions or making even bad decisions. Don't beat yourselves up. God still loves you. He's not this mean, angry, vengeful, tyrant who is just sitting on the throne just waiting to bash us and punish us for every mistake we make. That's not his nature. The Word of God says that he is love. And love just feels good. So don't beat yourselves up. Pick yourselves up, dust yourselves off, and learn from your mistakes, and just keep moving forward.
That's great advice. I think that's fantastic. Like
Thank
you said earlier, as long as you're improving every day, when you're working on yourself, it's really hard and it's difficult to feel bad about yourself. If you're just a work in progress, that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out in one day.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
where can everybody find your book?
My book, entitled "This Is How Saved People Sin," the memoirs of a saved girl, by myself, Tisa Batey. I don't use the Walker on my book, actually, so it's just Tisa Batey. It's sold online everywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, iTunes, everywhere that books are sold, you can pick up a copy of my book online. And again, the title is "This Is How Saved People Sin: The Memoirs of a Saved Girl" by Tisa Batey.
Excellent. And I don't know if you're public on social media. If you want to put that information out, that's up to you. But if you want to connect with others, you can feel free
I
to
am.
say. Mhm.
Sure, they can follow me on Facebook at Tisa Batey, Tisa. Batey is Batey, Walker, Walker, or they can follow me on Instagram at Tisa, Tisa _Batey, Batey.
Excellent. I'm so grateful that you joined us today and shared all of these powerful messages. And you're such an inspiration, and it's been my pleasure to have you on. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You're very welcome. You too. Bye, Tisa.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you enjoyed the shows tonight, and thanks for always tuning in and for all your support. Thank you for joining us today on A Billion Realities. Please stay tuned for next Wednesday's show at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everyone.